This is my April reading wrap-up. Hello everyone, Mariah here and welcome back to my channel. Just in case you haven't seen my previous March vlog, I briefly explained that there are a few reasons as to why my last video and this video is delayed. But after this video, I am back on track, so all is good. Long story short, I had some skin treatment issues going on for a couple of weeks, and then I went and visited friends and family for a couple of weeks, but I couldn't take my editing laptop and my work laptop with me because it would have been too much. I also attended some bookish events whilst I was there as well, and I'll talk about one of those in this video. But also, sadly, whilst I was there, I lost one of my dogs at 13 years as well. So it's just been a little bit of a crazy month for me, and I just needed some time with my dad and to grieve and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, like I said, I am now back on track. So that is the main thing. So the plan of action for this video is to open both my March Illumicrate box and my April one. I was going to include March's box in my March video. However, March's subscription box came towards the end of the month, and I just thought the video was already quite long for the last one, so I thought I'd include it in this video. So we've got two boxes to open with some books and some merch, which is always really exciting. And then I'm going to take you through some bookish things that I've done in April. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about the books that I've read in a completely spoiler-free way. So get comfy, get cozy, and let's have a bookish catch-up. So first of all, let's dive into our subscription boxes, because these are always the most exciting thing to open. And as always, I will put a close-up video on the screen so you can see all the items in more detail as well. So March's Illumicrate subscription box was Haunting Spirits. Okay, so the first thing we've got here is Storybook Setting Location Magnet, inspired by One Dark Window. I've not read One Dark Window, but it is on my shelf. I was supposed to read it in October last year, but I just couldn't get through my TBR. Oh wow, that looks really good. Oh, this is actually quite heavy. This is a really pretty magnet. So it's got a moon on there, and it's also got the gates and some tree branches on there as well. I really like that, that's really pretty. We also have this coaster as well, and this is kind of like a mandala styled pattern. Always love a good coaster. Next we have this Fantastical Forests book pop. It's packaged really well, I can tell you that much. I'm gonna have to grab some scissors. I'm just gonna use Ash's keys instead. This is really, really cool. Look how cute this is. So I'm probably gonna end up just putting my bookmarks in this, but I absolutely love the design on that, and like the rose gold leaves as well. I love that. That's gonna go straight on my shelf. Oh, and this is a embroidery kit. That's really cool, because I do actually like embroidery. So I think I will actually give this a go in my downtime. So this is inspired by the book Where the Dark Stands Still, and it's going to be this kind of deer skull with some plants and some strawberries. I don't know if I'm going to be any good, and I don't know if it's going to end up looking like that, but I will give it a go. And then finally we have the book, and this is really pretty. So this is The Prince Without Sorrow, and it also has really gorgeous end papers, and it also has this on the front cover as well. It has the tiger on there as well. This is really, really pretty, and the sprayed edges are absolutely gorgeous. So a little bit about the book. It says, welcome to the Ran Empire, where winged serpents fly through the skies, giant leopards prowl the earth, and witches burn blue as they die. A prince born into violence. Prince Ashoka, I hope that's pronounced correctly, is considered an outcast for opposing his father's brutal destruction of the Mayakari witches. A witch is also seeking revenge. Shakti vows retribution for the murder of her aunt and annihilation of her village at the hands of the emperor, even though she is bound by the Mayakari's pacifist code. There is a curse that will change the world. In her anger, she casts a violent curse, the consequences of which leave both her and Ashoka grappling of power. Do they take it for themselves and risk becoming what they most hate, or do they risk losing power completely as the world around them is destroyed? It sounds like we have two different pops there, and it sounds really good. I'll pop that on my shelf, and I will potentially give that a read when I get round to it. If you have read that book, let me know in the comments, because I would absolutely love to know your thoughts and feelings. I remember seeing it in Waterstones and thinking, oh, that looks really good, but I didn't pick it up. So now I do have it. So this is now April's box. So we are now officially all caught up. There is something really heavy and chunky in this box. So April's theme is rival realms. I never look at this. I always like to kind of keep the bits inside a surprise. Oh my God, is this a tote bag? Oh my gosh. We have a tote bag. This is so cool. This is absolutely huge. I can do my weekly shop in this bag. I do love a big tote bag though, because I love being able to put a jacket or something inside. Oh my God, and it has a zip as well, so stuff inside doesn't get wet or dirty. That is so cool. That is such a gorgeous design for a tote bag. So it says The Dragon's Dawn. I don't know if that's also the book included. I guess we'll find out. But even if it isn't, that is so cool. And I'm really intrigued as to what this is from. But that looks absolutely amazing. I will definitely be using that because I love tote bags so much. Oh, we have some stickers. So we have Cosmic Freight Sun stickers, and this is inspired by Fairbound. That's really cool. Again, that is another book that I do have on my shelf, but I am yet to get through. But I've heard a lot of good things about Fairbound. Oh, these are like the holographic translucent stickers. Oh, they would look so good on the window, but I think I'm gonna wait and I'll put these on my window when I move out. But they are absolutely stunning. Oh my goodness, this was what was heavy. This is a Valaris jigsaw puzzle. Oh my gosh, and it's actually shaped like a book as well. That's so cool. This illustration on the jigsaw puzzle is absolutely stunning. It just looks like such a beautiful place. I have a bit of anxiety when it comes to jigsaw puzzles because last year, me and Ash spent literally ages and ages and ages doing a giant 1,000, actually might be more than that, puzzle of the Lord of the Rings map. It was so difficult and we had one piece missing. So ever since we've been too scared to do jigsaw puzzles, but this one's $7.50, so it's not as bad as that one. But no, that's really, really pretty. I do love the design on that. And then this is the Aurora and Filion postcard set. Ooh, I love a postcard. Oh, these postcards are so pretty. So we have two postcards here. One of them is of like a village at night with a big castle in the background, and then we have this beautiful daytime one, and it has these gorgeous colors on. This is absolutely stunning. Yeah, those are really cute. I love artwork stuff so much, so yeah, I really like those. I think they would look really nice in a frame as well on the wall. This book looks so pretty. Oh, this one's quite a chunky book. How many pages is this? Oh, 646 pages. The colors on this book are incredible, and the sprayed edges, so pretty. The naked hardback is really gorgeous as well, and the end papers, oh my goodness. Honestly, some of these special edition books are just absolutely incredible, and they just look so good, and the quality on those sprayed edges, like that is just absolutely amazing. I actually think I have enough sprayed edges now to fill my sprayed edge shelf, so that will definitely take up a good part of my shelf. So the book itself is The Raven Scholar, which says she might win the throne, she might destroy an empire. Either way, it begins with murder. After 24 years on the throne, it is time for Burson the Brusque, Emperor of Oran, to bring his reign to an end. In the dizzying heat of midsummer, 7 contenders will compete to replace him. Trained at rival monasteries, each contender is inspired by a sacred animal: fox, raven, tiger, ox, bear, monkey, and hound. An 8th, the dragon proxy, will be revealed only once these trials have begun. 8 exceptional warriors, thinkers, strategists, the best of the best. It falls to the brilliant Nima Kra to investigate, but as she hunts for a killer, darker forces are gathering. If Nima succeeds, she could win the throne, whether she wants it or not. If she fails, she will sentence herself to death and set in motion a sequence of events that could doom the empire. That sounds so incredible. I've personally not heard of this book before, but that genuinely sounds so good. Again, really happy with those 2 boxes, because whenever I get subscription boxes, I do worry sometimes that I'm not as interested in the books. But even if I don't, or I've had them on my shelf for a while, I'll just give those ones away. But that one I do really like the sound of. So if you have read that, please let me know, because I really want to know if that is as good as it sounds. Okay, so now that has all been cleared up, because after doing unboxing videos, honestly, the mess It's unreal. It's always fun opening everything, but then you look at the floor and you're like, oh my God, what have I just done? So let's talk about some bookish things that I did in the month of April, and then we'll go into my books that I've read. So one of the events that I attended in April was a Q&A evening with Lauren Roberts, who is the author of the Powerless trilogy. I personally really enjoy going to bookish Q&As because I just think they are really insightful. I think it's just really interesting getting a author's perspective on their inspiration, how they came up with certain ideas, their favorite things about the book, all these different things. And I just think it's really good to get to know things in more detail. One of my favorite things that she spoke about was her inspiration behind the willow tree. So if you haven't read the series, it's not a spoiler, don't worry, but there is this willow tree where our character's kind of confined in the peace of being under this willow tree. And she explained that when she was younger, she had a willow tree in her garden and she would kind of sit under there and kind of admire, you know, nature. And I just thought that was really, really sweet. And it's those little things that are added into the book that I just think make it really, really wholesome. She did also speak briefly about the novella that she is writing. Nothing new, so I don't think anyway. I think everything that was said that night is stuff that was already mentioned in previous Q&As that kind of already run around on Book Talk. The audience Q&A was really, really fun. People asked some really good questions. Some were really humorous, some were more interesting and in more depth, but yeah, really, really good. I really wanted to ask her if she had a Greggs sausage roll. Don't ask me why, I just really wanted to. And I did have a bookish question as well, but sadly we didn't have time to answer all the questions. But either way, it was still a really, really fun night. It was also hosted by Sophia Tuxford as well. And they were really good together. They really bounced back and forth with each other. Another thing that I did as well, which was one of my favorite things that I did, was me and my best friend went to a bookish market. I have never been to something like this before, and I really wanted to go. So whilst I was visiting, we drove and we went to a bookish market, and it was just full of indie authors and stalls and people with craft and merch and things like that, and I was absolutely in my element. Another really wholesome thing as well is there was a gentleman outside of the market on a little chair, and if you gave him 3 words, he would write a short story about you. So I gave him the words books, coffee and birds because they're like my 3 favorite things ever, and he wrote a short story. So I'll pop it on the screen for you, and if you want to pause it and give it a read, you absolutely can do so. He also doesn't ask for a specific amount of money. He kind of just says any donation at all, and you don't even have to donate if you don't want to, but I did because he's still taking time out of his day to write this. And when I read it, I just felt like I could relate to this so much. It literally felt like I was reading about myself in a book. It was incredible, and I just thought it was really wholesome. So yeah, I really liked that because it's memorabilia that you can keep forever. So yeah, I will definitely frame and keep that. And then finally, of course, we have the books that I read in April as well. I read 3 books, which is not as many as my previous month, but I never like to think of numbers too much because it's not a competition. I don't like to feel like I need to rush to read loads of books. So I'm happy with what I read. I really enjoyed these books. So the first book that I finished in April was Where the Heart Should Be by Sarah Crossan. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Bloomsbury for sending me this copy. I am eternally grateful because honestly, I really, really loved this book. This is a historical fiction and it follows our main character, who is a young teenager. I believe she's 16, and her family. Now, unfortunately, during this time, there was this disease known as the blight that was spreading amongst crops in people's homes, and it caused vegetables and the potatoes to all die off and get really moldy and really rotten, and it was causing a lot of problems. Because these crops were basically everyone's source of income and money, and therefore people couldn't get any money to pay the rent, it meant that a lot of families were living in severe poverty, and a lot of people were also being forced to leave their homes. Our main character is kind of going through all of this, and she actually works as a maid at the local manor as to where the landlord lives. The landlord is basically having the time of his life. He's rich, everything's fine for him. He's got food, he doesn't need to worry about the blight, he's fine with everything. And it's this whole idea that there are people who just really don't see the problems that are going on for other people. She basically uses all the money that she can to keep her family alive and well, and living in the house. But of course, as time goes on, things do get a lot worse. There are also people that get very sick and very unwell, and there are lots of different things that start happening to the point where the village really wants to rebel against the landlord and all of the rich people because they are just so fed up with their living conditions. The idea that, you know, how do you expect us to pay the rent when we're losing everything and we're all starving? There is also some forbidden romance in here as well. So it's not exactly strictly forbidden, but it's the fact that the landlord's nephew is living with him for the time being, and our main character kind of starts to like him while she's kind of doing her maid job around the house. He actually kind of starts seeing these issues, but there's a lot of dangerous things going on because, like I said, people want to rebel and they want to take down the people living in this mansion. So you can probably imagine all of the drama that goes down. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars, and I really loved the way that this book was written. It's a very moving, very emotional read. And despite the fact that there are so many awful things going on in this book, I kind of liked how there was also a little bit of romance in there too, because it kind of showed that there was hope and potential change coming through. I also just couldn't stop thinking about how our characters must have been feeling during these hard times. And what I love the most about historical fictions is you really do feel for the characters. Historical fictions are obviously things that are very much happening in the real world or have happened, so you just can't even begin to imagine what people have gone through. Something that I also really liked about this book is I really enjoyed the writing style. I don't really know how to explain it, so I'll just kind of show you the beginning, but it's written like this. I kind of ended up flying through the book because there weren't that many words on the pages. Just thought it was really unique. I thought it was so beautifully written, very emotional. Yeah, it had everything that I wanted. I think for me, the only reason why it wasn't 5 stars is because I felt like the ending was a little bit rushed, and therefore it kind of didn't make me feel as emotional as I think it could have made me feel. But either way, really recommend this book. The next book I finished in April is a book that I actually found in a charity shop. I hadn't heard of it before, but it sounded really, really good, and that is The Library by Bella Osborne. This is a story about 2 different characters at different ages coming together to help each other out. It has 2 different paths. One is of our main character called Tom. He is 16 and he is currently going through his exams in school, and it also follows Maggie, who is in her mid-70s and she lives on a farm. The 2 of these characters end up forming a friendship between each other, and both of them share the same hobby of attending their local library, and the local library is actually being threatened to be closed down by the council because they don't want to keep it running anymore. I actually thought this whole story was going to be about the 2 of them helping to save the library, and it very much is that. But one thing I didn't expect this book to be was a lot more detailed than that. Both of these characters really come together to help each other out through the difficult experiences that they're going through in their lives. Tom has a very sour relationship with his dad, who is an alcoholic. So I just wanted to mention that in case it's a trigger warning for somebody. And there is also grief and loss in here as well. So maybe check before reading this. It's not extremely detailed or anything like that, but it is kind of mentioned frequently throughout the book. So Tom really struggles to be in the house. So he goes to his local library as a way of escaping all that negativity, and he actually starts finding his love for reading books, especially romance books, which Maggie really likes about him. Tom for a while plays it off that these books are for his mum, but Maggie kind of clicks on that he's not really telling the truth. So she kind of secretly recommends books for his mom, even though she knows they're definitely for him, and she kind of helps him find his love for reading again. And kind of vice versa, Tom starts to help Maggie with kind of helping her with her loneliness, because being in her mid-70s, that's all she's kind of experiencing, and her animals on her farm help her to kind of have a routine. But that's why she goes to the library, because she attends a book club, and it's something that she looks forward to every week. And then she starts looking forward to seeing Tom as well, because both of them start speaking quite frequently. I gave this book 4.5 stars, and I just think it was so heartwarming. I promise you, I'm not lying to you when I say that I have always said if I could write a book, it would be about the friendship between a younger person and an older person, because I just think it's so special that you got two completely different generations, but they can always help each other out. I love how Tom is this really scared and worried kid. He doesn't know what he needs to do with his life. His dad's trying to force him to get a job and he doesn't want to. He wants to stay and help the library and he wants to do his own thing. He doesn't want to work in the factory, which is what his dad's forcing him to do. And then Maggie is very lonely, but she's very sad. And it's really sweet that she confides in Tom and they confide in each other. I like how there's a lot of relatable life incidences in this book that you can relate to. And I just think it was really well written. I love the banter between Tom and Maggie. And like I said, I've always wanted to write a book about an older person and a younger person. I just think there is something really, really special. I got quite emotional reading this book, actually. There was a lot in there that I didn't expect to happen that happened. And I think the ending was perfect as well. So yeah, if you're looking for a really heartwarming read, definitely pick this up and give it a go. I also love the fact that it kind of speaks about how important it is to support your local library and your local communities. I really like the message that gets out there as well. Yeah, fantastic book, absolutely loved it. And then last but certainly not least, we have Fearless by Lauren Roberts. I wanted to make sure I finished this book before going to the Q&A session because I assumed that there were going to be spoilers, but actually they kept it spoiler free, which I thought was really nice. But just in case, I wanted to make sure I finished it. This is book 3 of the Powerless trilogy. So for those of you that haven't read this series, a lot of people relate it to the Hunger Games, and I can definitely see that relation. But essentially there are characters known as elites and they have powers, and then there are people known as ordinaries, which are just humans, they have no powers. And Payton is an ordinary, she doesn't have any powers, and she is thrown into a big contest and she is forced to kind of show herself even though she has no powers. She has to pretend that she does in order to survive, and everyone else in this competition is an elite who have powers, and let's just say it's kind of crazy how she ends up surviving the whole time. There is also romance between her and an elite, but he doesn't know she's an ordinary. And yeah, lots of things start happening and it's all about fighting to survive, and she is basically serving for her home and her community. There were lots of things that goes on, and yeah, I really didn't expect as much to blow up in this book as it did. My favorite is actually the novella. I think even though it's such a small part of the series, it's a perfect book. But in terms of the 3 main books, I definitely think the first one was my favorite. I will admit I absolutely love how everything wraps up in this one, and I love all of the uncertainty and all of the build up and all the crazy stuff that starts happening in this book. Honestly, there were several moments where this book really did catch me off guard. It really threw me out and it did make my jaw hit the floor. At times things were a little bit rushed, and it's just one of those books where I really enjoyed it, but I'm just not going to think about it, I think, as much as some other books that I've read. Again, I think the character development still carried on and it was really, really good. The plots and the story got really interesting as well. It took a little bit of a while to kick in. I found for like the first half of the book, I wasn't as gripped as I wanted to be, but still enough to kind of want to keep reading. Then when I hit the halfway mark, things started popping and I was like, oh, okay, this is getting good. I thought the ending was really wholesome and really, really sweet as well. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. There were just a couple of things that I think felt a bit rushed or a little bit odd, but it's hard to explain those without spoiling anything. So I'm just trying to make sure I keep this spoiler free. Technically buddy reading this with my best friend because we were both obviously going to this book event and we kind of wanted to make sure we had read it before going. But yeah, I also loved more of the backstory. You get a lot of more backstory in this book, which kind of makes sense for everything that's happened previously. We also had some returning characters in this book, which I was very, very, very happy about. Overall, really enjoyed it. I did think it was really, really good. Just a couple of things that are a bit hit and miss for me. So I had to just get my camera back out and film because I completely forgot to mention that I had actually DNF'd a book in the month of April and I completely forgot about it. I think the fact that I forgot about it just shows how little impact this book had for me. It's because on my Goodreads, I have a folder for DNF and then just my normal read folder. And normally I always go into the read folder to check which books I read that month for these type of videos. But because obviously the book was in the other one, completely bypassed the fact that I DNF'd it. So the book that I ended up DNFing in April was Orbital by Samantha Harvey. And this was actually my second DNF so far of the year. I was absolutely devastated about how uninteresting this book was to me. I had been eyeing up this book for quite some time since I saw it. I literally cannot speak today. I had been eyeing up this book in Waterstones since I first saw it when it came out, and on the back, it said that it had all these awards. It was really uplifting and really moving. So I thought, oh, a book about being in outer space and seeing the world from a different perspective and, you know, thinking about humanity and what Earth would be like without it and all these questionable things. I thought, oh, this sounds really like insightful and really interesting. And I actually found this book in the charity shop for £1. So I thought, well, I can't really go wrong. Tell me why about halfway through, I just wanted to take this book back to the charity shop. I really did not get on with this book at all. And this made me feel really sad because I'm quite an easy to please person. You know, it doesn't have to be a crazy wild story. As long as it's at least interesting, I'm pretty content. But I got halfway and I was like, literally nothing has happened. And nothing remotely interesting has happened or been said. I kid you not, repetitively, like lots and lots of time, it would just say things like, oh, look, there's the Amazon rainforest, or oh, look, I can see the pyramids from here. There's just no information or conversation. There was only one point in the book that I was mildly interested, and it was about the backstory behind one of the female astronauts and why she wanted to become one. Other than that, the conversations between the astronauts, everything that was being said, I just really wasn't interested whatsoever. When I got halfway, that's kind of when I reached breaking point and I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I had noticed a friend of mine had read the book. So I messaged her and was like, please, for the love of life, tell me this gets more interesting or at least something happens. And apparently not. Nothing happens. So I left the book behind and my nan was like, I'll give it a read. It's only a short book. She's an incredibly fast reader. So she was like, I'll get through it and let you know my thoughts tomorrow. So she texted me the next day and was like, yeah, it was incredibly boring. Nothing happens. Probably not a bad thing that you didn't finish it. So yeah, the fact that me, my nan and my friend didn't like it made me feel quite sad because like I said, I had pretty high hopes for it. But never mind, can't please everybody. So that concludes my April reading wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. Honestly, your support genuinely means everything to me. I am so grateful. Like I said, apologies once again that this video is a little late. I've got my fantasy ball that I attended as well. That vlog is going to be so exciting. I can't wait for you to see that, so stay tuned for that. And of course, we have my May reading wrap up coming out very soon with my unboxing and what I read in May. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Let me know in the comments what your favorite read was of April, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.